Welcome in everybody. Coming to you live from the Atlanta United Fan TV headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the Atlanta United Fan TV post-match live show. And unfortunately, the season post-mortem. So, that was a long, deliberate, pregnant pause and sigh from me because, boy, that's a tough loss. That's a tough loss. The way it happened, who it happened by, started by at least, dominoes, the first domino to fall, was one of our own, an alumni, giving us the dagger to start things off. I almost called it. I said 8th minute, but it wasn't quite the 8th minute. It was around the 10th minute, I think, in where Darlington Nabby shot to the heart. And boy, again, it's tough. It's tough when a team like Columbus scores their first two against you in a playoff match from outside the 18 with arguably the first one should have been dealt with, but the second one was just a wonder shot. And at that point, Columbus was off to the races, and it was always going to be a mountain to climb from then on out. AJ, I'm joined by my lovely co-host and partner in soccer, as the guys on Extra Time like to say. What were your thoughts? How are you feeling? Take me through it.
Yeah, it's to speak on Nagby, it's Etu Nagby, man, and you as well. It was just completely and wholly just the one we didn't need, and you didn't celebrate, to be fair. But man, this like you said, this is a tough one to swallow because you can't go down early against Columbus on the road. We needed that first goal, and it just wasn't happening. I mean, we had a pretty good first minutes, like really good action, really good balls in behind that we lacked being clinical tonight. And yes, we had two goals, but the other chances, we had probably about 4 chances before our actual goal. It's just, this match, we bled at the back. We just couldn't sort out any sort of any of the patterns that Columbus were playing in, and we kind of just allowed them way too much space at times. Like there were too many moments where our midfield just let us down, and whatever it is, Tristan Muyumba in Columbus, this is a house of horrors for him. Both games, I don't know how he's not sent off.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully for us, but it is, he's walking that tightrope, and man, like, he's like hanging by like a pinky, not getting that second yellow. But Yorgos Yakimakis having another pretty decent game.
He showed up.
Lennon he showed
up.
Lennon with 2 assists showed up. Silva, was doing some good things. Thiago Almada, unfortunately, did not really quite show up. And it was a player that, he looked a little bit lost. He looked a little bit where the game was a little too quick for him, maybe at times.
You need your big money players to have their heads on in a big game, and he just, I mean, like Thiago Almada, I was saying this during earlier when we were watching the game. Guy seems to show up for games that don't mean anything, and he just pulls stuff out of his butt. But then when things count, where is he?
I think it's a little bit harsh, but because I
Where
think
where
it's
was
this.
he
It's
in
like
the any of the cup games? Where was he in this game? Tournaments, he's been lackluster. That the games that count. Regular season random games where he pulls out insane stuff, like, great, wonderful. But what does that mean? Like, at the end of the
I think it's
day,
also
like
this.
2-3 games
It
he gave us
means
W's for ended up not really mattering.
it means he's a young kid. It means he hasn't quite found his consistency. It means he's a player that's, while he could be clutch in some moments where he pulls us back into a game, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that, yeah, he's, there quite yet for every single match that
Yeah.
we need him in. And
Yeah.
this is, an example of his youth, an example of how, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, we needed him to connect some lines, and it really wasn't quite happening. But luckily, some other members of the team were dragging us forward. And, I think, yes, while this match was not really everything that we wanted to be, there were some things that are encouraging that we can caveat. It doesn't excuse the score line, but yeah, I mean, I think we showed fight like we always do, but it's just, yeah, there's too many lackluster patterns of play in defense that we just show that, we rear that ugly head way too often. And yeah, I think a lot of people probably ragged on Louis Brom this match. Um, yeah, Miles Robinson, maybe not his best match either. Muyamba, like we said, yeah, it's a little Jekyll and Hyde for him at the moment. And
We needed
yeah,
the
I mean, I
monster
think
to show
Fortune,
up from last game, and he just didn't.
yeah. And I think it's this. I mean, it's like, yeah, Wilfred Nancy, credit goes to him too. Like, he changed some things up. Julian Gressel didn't start. And I mean, I think there's probably an onus on maybe the directive from Columbus Crew was exploit the weakness of long distance shots on Hughes goal, because there's time and time again he gets beat. But, take nothing away from the second goal, which was incredible. But the first goal was also a long range goal from Darlington Nagby.
Was he
And,
screened or something?
well,
Because Brad Guzan just hit the ground the immediate, like, how do you not, like, take at
yeah,
least a couple of steps to try and get to it?
right.
He just immediately just hit the ground and was like, I can't do anything. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
It's one of those, yeah, it's like basically, like, we know, like, laterally, like, Guzan just doesn't have those reactions anymore. And yeah, I think he was also cheating to his left, and so he couldn't really, get, I guess, his outstretched arm to Nagby's shot. Even though I think yeah, it's fairly, like, if he goes all the way down, I think he can get a hand to it,
Yes,
if not a fingertip
I
to
agree.
it.
Yeah.
But he didn't go down fast enough, if at all, really. I mean, until, like, it's past him. And yeah, it's just one of these, like, Braguzan, if it's shot right at him, if he's positioned well, his kick save,
Yeah, he had some good ones
really
this
good.
game.
Really good there. But yeah, and he was asked after the match by the press, like, is this his last match? Is he playing next season? And he pretty much mentioned, yeah, he's going to think it over. His family is very important to him. He's not concerned about that at the moment. But yeah,
Sounds like
you have a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people calling for his head. And it's.
I mean, like, if you don't just say, yeah, I'll be back, you leave the door open for everyone saying, okay, well, that might be probably not going to be here. But, I mean, then again, you have to look at his contract, to look at the fact that he's still in it for next year. I don't think you're going to find another team to take him or what have you. So you have to either buy him out or what have you. So that's not a smart move. So he's probably going to be here.
Would he do that, though? Like, would he be the player that stays, even if he's not wanted?
I mean, he's wanted. It's just that, like, we don't want him to be the starting goalkeeper. We want him. I would prefer him to be a backup in order to teach the new. But the thing is, this was the year to have the backup, so you can. He's already been coaching, teaching, getting him ready for next season when he's needed. Because obviously, we can't rely on him to be doing this fantasy player to be here and just like dominating the whole time. You need Brad to at least do something. Brad did do something this season, just not great. And then you'd want it supplemented with a new guy. Thing is, then he needs to be ramped up and then hopefully is up to speed for the next season, and not having, and then Brad is like, okay, now I'm letting you free and to be the goalkeeper. But that's not the case. Doesn't seem to be that case. It looks like it might need another season, and at that point, are we willing to take another season of literally second worst in the league in terms of shot stopping percentage? I don't think we are.
Yeah, I don't think we can afford that. And also, I don't think we can afford his contract for him to do partial time. Like, it's just, yeah. I think we have to have a good long talk with our longest serving captain and let him know, hey, we might need to go in a different direction because your powers are waning, and yeah, it's just it's been time.
Exactly the same conversation with our shortest tenure at captain as well, with Mateus Husetsu.
Yeah. Probably so. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess who else has been captain? Yeah.
I mean, he's been captain,
probably.
Like, maybe like 10
one,
max,
one or two games,
5 or something. I don't even know.
Oh,
it's a small amount.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just one of those where now, yeah, I mean, we can rattle through. We'll get into that, I think, and maybe some 5-stripe weekly episodes. But yeah, we'll focus on this match. But yeah, basically before all that, if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe. Shouts out to our patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we do
Gavin.
that, let me just throw them up on with our starting lineup. With Drew up top, Gavin in the midfield, and Ariel, as always, reliably in the goal. Thank you very much, you three, for being our top patrons. If you want to see yourself and your name on this list in our starting lineup, please hit that subscribe button on Patreon at the, what is it at this point? It's the $11 and up tier in order to get on this list. Please do it. We would really appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. We can continue doing fun, interesting stuff for you guys, and especially over the off season where we have a lot of things lined up.
Indeed. And yeah, there will be definitely a lot of stuff in the off season. Silly season ensues.
It's going to be a wild time.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that will probably not be on the team. Thus, there will be a lot of new players coming in. And on top of that, we have some very fun stuff planned, not only for the transfer stuff, but also for certain special things coming up. So definitely keep your eyes peeled and ears and all the senses. But yeah, as well, let's get into the
let's look at the chat a little bit real quick. So Strong, good to have you. Thank you very much for being here. Let's talk about the new season now. Well, and expectations. A little early. Maybe we'll do that in some, like he said, the 5-stripe weekly episodes coming up. Drew says, lot to think about now. Where to go from here. Dino says, pretty mid-season. Hoping for a productive offseason from the front office. Definitely need to be looking for a new 10, 6, and center back. Probably a new keeper, too. Merrick Gollad says, man, what happened out there today? Strong also says, of course, a new keeper is needed. Drew says, why the F did it take us being down 3-0 to wake up? Strong also says, But let's be real. First question is the coach. Jack Dickens says, need to look at the team defensively. I think overall, that's what cost us out. Offense is dangerous, but that didn't help when the back line gives up goals too easily. Drew also says, things to work on in the offseason. First, bring in a new goalie. Gazan showed his age all season. It's time to let him go. Second, we need to work on the team depth. We are lacking in key areas. And then Jack says, 8 goals conceded against them in 3 playoff games. Don't forget, we scored 6 on them, though. So that's pretty cool if they're going to go on to win the cup, which I predict they will. Simply not championship material, but perhaps runner-up. Because if they go against almost any other team, I think that they probably beat them worse than they beat us. In terms of goal differential, if you look at it that way. Obviously, they're not going to have the benefit of 3 games apiece, but, look at goal differential. Lightning says, third, we need to find new center back in a new 6 and 8. Strong says, but who plays the coach next season? Who plays the coach next season?
Plays the coach.
Interesting. I guess probably the Garth Lagerby will decide whether or not he plays the coach next season. So that is some of the comments. Do you want to dig into any of them before we hop into the guest segment?
Ooh. I mean, the coach, we haven't talked about the coach yet and his performance tonight. I mean, obviously, yeah, he pretty much went with the strongest 11. That wasn't an issue.
Except for Hosetu not being available.
Right. And I don't think that was like the biggest.
Yeah, I don't think Fortune had a stinker of a game.
Right. I think he had a pretty actually decent match. I think, he held his own defensively, with the ball as well. I think he was finding some, connectivity between the lines. Was it perfect? No, but I think
you don't expect him to.
I don't think I can single it out. Yeah. I don't think we can be like, oh, yeah, we lost this because he was in the midfield. Like this. I think Muyumba, it was a little bit more kind of topsy-turvy again for him in Columbus, like I said earlier. And it's just like, there's a bit of that. Thiago Almada not really being himself.
Invisible. Where's his cross-pitch crosses that he's known so well to slice up defenses, put teams on their heels? I didn't see any of those tonight. This is a theme that we're going to get back to probably multiple times tonight in the stream, is this hot and cold aspect of this team. It's like we talked about this earlier in previous segments about which team is going to show up for this game. Is it going to be the world beater Atlanta United, or is it going to be like Beer League Sunday Atlanta United? It's remarkable the contrast between I don't know what it is. It's not like you can't just say it's intensity because it's partially that, but it's like again, I'm at a loss for words that I can't describe why a team can be so good sometimes against the same freaking adversity, and then just shit the bed the next game. You can't just tell me, well, playing away in MLS is literally impossible. I can't. That is not something that just, because it's just like, okay, every time we play a team away, we expect to lose. Is that really what we're going with? It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's this. I mean, it's like, it is a big factor, obviously. That's without being said, obviously. But a lot of what we do well gets likely negated on the road. What we like to do is control matches, with our possession. And, okay, there's a bit of that in this match early on, but we lost steam. They got a ton of momentum, started to control things, started to play in our half a lot. And, yeah, it's just we don't have the adjustments that we can make in game to make the difference. And yeah, we our goal got peppered in both halves, but yeah, I mean, we had some really strong chances, but we can't be clinical, and
Not enough, at least.
yeah,
A lot of
not enough.
times,
I mean,
two
for the final
away is
ball,
enough to get like a tie, often in MLS. But I mean, again, you're going up against the highest scoring team in MLS. They're gonna put multiple goals through you at least, like at least two. So like, I don't know,
and
like,
then when you let a center back, hit a golazo against you,
uh,
uh, like it's just yeah,
that
it's
was
like
a
okay,
gut
yes, you can
punch.
say
That's a dagger.
yeah, it's like that type of goal. Okay, like you chalk it up to like okay, that's a freak goal,
It was.
but still
Yeah.
he had enough time to
Yeah,
pick
you're
his head
always
up,
gonna give a
kick
left
out the
back
corner.
acres of space to go and do that all day because they'll like never do it.
Center back, but yeah,
Yeah,
either
yeah.
way, yeah, it's like usually the two worst players on the pitch probably with the ball is probably a right back and probably the left center back. And so I forgive that you give them some space,
Yeah.
but man,
And then we get
like
punished like
there's
in the playoffs. I mean, this is the same level of frustration I had when Toronto's like Osorio and whatever just like these dudes, this guy, quiet all season long. They never hit this type of shot. They don't even attempt it usually. And all of a sudden in the playoffs when it's against Atlanta United, they're going to have the game of their freaking life. And it's like, cool,
because the
great,
book is
good for
out.
you. You'll never do this again, and you'll get absolutely demolished against the next team you play because you won because of wonder goals. And then what happened to Toronto? They got absolutely demolished in their next game because it just you can't just okay, cool, you won because of that, but there's no system there. There's no really reason you won this game except for luck. Obviously, Columbus is not the same. They won not only because of luck, but they also are just very good. They had like 2-3 goals that are extremely good. And it's just like, okay, you're just a good team, and we expected this. We expected minimum from 2 from Columbus. We were hoping to limit them to 3 and maybe get 3-2. Unfortunately, we couldn't, and then that fourth was just, I mean, damn.
It's just this is the type of team that doesn't need luck, and
But
the
they
fact
got
that
it.
the fact that they got it is just absolutely killer, and ultimately
Do you think that? You
that's
think when they saw that left back or that the center back knock that in from that? Did you think like some people just went like I couldn't tell. I didn't see this in the players, but like, do you think like psychologically some of them just went like, not our night, boys, just not our night. Like if that kind
yeah,
of
I
level
mean,
of shit's happening, probably
yes,
not our night.
yeah, yeah. It's I think I saw some players heads drop a little bit. I
I saw
think
Lennon's a bit, but he
uh,
still kept going, so it's good.
right. I think you saw Almada you know kind of down tools a little bit. Like he stopped being as aggressive as he normally is. He stopped being the player that we know he could be,
Mm.
and that's to our detriment, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get our first guest on here.
Yeah. Well, right before we do
Yeah,
that, let me ask him to hop in, and then before we do that, I'm going to actually let me get the stats for this game too. Let me change his name real quick so everyone doesn't freak out.
yeah, because our
on
XG
Discord.
is actually like our
Um,
XG was higher than theirs. I mean, also
well,
because
it wasn't at the end,
they're
but
yeah, it
at
wasn't
the
at the
half
end
it was
in
higher.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the half it was,
Yeah.
and at the half obviously it was higher because yeah, our chances were actually good.
Yeah.
The first those first 4 chances that we didn't get a goal, it's just like
Yeah.
well
So we ended
as
it.
well their second goal
It ended obviously
was
4-2 to Columbus.
rough.
We had a 1 point, or they had a 1.8 xG. We had a 1.5 xG. So we overperformed our xG, and they like massively overperformed theirs. We had a 53% possession. They had 47. They had 21 shots to our 11. They had 8 on target to our 4. They had 6 block shots. We had 2. We had more corner kicks at 4 to their 2, or to their 3. Sorry. They had 5 offside calls. We only had 1. Again, this is kind of one of the things we talked about. We wanted to see more offside Giacomakis. Didn't really see that tonight. Interestingly, fouls were 15 apiece, both sides. 3 yellow cards to their 2, and 15 free kicks on their side to our 14. That's kind of where the stats, in my opinion, become less relevant. So with that, we want to bring on Connor for his debut on the stream. Welcome, Connor. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do video with us tonight, but maybe in the future he will be. Again, thank you for being a patron. And yeah, the floor is yours to give us all of your takes, hot, cold, and all the above.
All right, yeah. Thank you for having me on. Definitely video in the future.
Appreciate it, brother.
Eventually. So let's see. I think starting off first goal, it's pretty unlucky. I mean, I think Miles wants to have a better clearance there, but other than that, I think just close them down quicker. I mean, it's just a good goal from them. Otherwise, I mean, I don't really think y'all were talking Goose probably could have done a little bit better, but
feel like he coulda.
Yeah, I think that one there's a lot of things that could have been done better, and I don't think Goose is at the top of that list. So
fair.
That's just my take on that one. I think their second goal, I mean, it's kind of
yeah.
You know.
No, I get it.
You
Yeah.
just put your hands up. That's just like
well, like I said, it's like, you're going to have that kind of a game? All right, okay, I guess I'll see myself out.
Exactly, yeah. I think the only slight thing that I'll say with like us conceding long shots is we know Goose isn't great at them, yet we still allow them to have that kind of space every once in a while.
Right.
You know?
you play the percentages, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's like those shots usually don't go in, but yeah, they seem to go in against Guzan a lot, right? So
I will say though that was one of the better ones that I've seen that he has let in.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of goalies are getting to that.
Yeah,
the Swaz on that, it's basically almost unstoppable. I mean, maybe he could have stuck to his line a little bit more, but I mean, the bend on that was nasty.
It's curling away from him, which is the most, like, as a goalkeeper myself, that's one of the most annoying ones to deal with. Because, like, if it's coming back at you, you can you get there and you're like, okay, you can get up there and you're like, just get to it. But on those, it starts closer to you, and then you have to go away from it, and it's just frustrating one to deal with. But I think the bigger issue though was at 2-1, GG missed a really big opportunity. Their goalkeeper, I mean, he had a save that was basically right at him. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Probably
GG.
could have put it, bottom left or something, but not much time to think about it.
GG on a different day may score that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Kind of what you were saying, like, today just wasn't our day, and I kind of felt like that a chance kind of summarized it. Like, didn't really get enough on it, but I mean, other than that, like, third goal, Jean Dace, I don't know. I think he's trying to play it to. I forget who he's trying to play it to. It's in between Lynn and I think Fortune right there, and I don't really know who it's aimed at. You know, terrible giveaway there, especially in that half. I like the idea of skipping a line that progresses our attack even quicker. I like the idea. It's just whenever you're playing that kind of ball, it's got to get there.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
That was something I was saying all during this game, was that, you know, this was a marker of why we were doing well in game 2. Is that we were winning second balls. We were getting to these opportunities whenever there was a loose ball. Didn't seem to do that much tonight. Like, whenever there was balls, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, you saw Tristan just coming in out of nowhere, just on a bald sprint. He saw it. Like, he's like, okay, this ball ain't getting where it's supposed to go. I'm going to help it get there. Like, he just was that guy. And there was a couple other players who were doing that too. Tonight, didn't really see a lot of it. I don't know what it is. Like, it's like, again, it's the hot and cold nature of this team where it's like, sometimes Tristan's like, I want to be a, MLS best 11, 8. And then next game, it's like, are you really, like, is this USL? Like, I don't, it's just blows my mind.
He's such a funny player to me because, like you said, like on one day he's like the best player that you're like, this guy, he needs to be in Europe right now. Get this guy into Europe. And then the next game you're like, Atlanta United 2 anybody? Like,
exactly.
Although I
And
will
it
say,
probably speaks to why he was playing in, League Deux.
oh yeah,
And also
100%.
probably why he's in MLS is that, player that lacks the consistency, at least yet. And
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a little older. He's not going to, like, figure it out all of a sudden in his 30s or something. Like,
I think,
but
I don't know about y'all. Like, I feel like if you put Nagby right beside him, I feel like he would become such a, like, more consistent player.
you put Nagby next to anyone, and they'll become immediately 1,000 times better.
That is true. I just feel like he needs a consistent passer next to him. He can do the running. He needs a passer next to him, and I think you kind of see that whenever he plays with like Rosie in a team that doesn't really press as high. He plays really, really well. Whenever he plays without Rosie or in a team against a team that plays really like high press, he kind of is.
Because he's called upon to do too much. He's called upon to do everything at that point. And Rosie's not going to be someone who's going to find that pass. He's going to play more defensively, pass backwards, try and keep possession. Tristan's looking for also a pass that can, cut through lines. And it's like, in a high press, it's really hard to do. And when you don't have someone who can help you out with that, I mean, you're pushed up against it.
It's kind of...
especially, Good.
Kind of just asks too much of him in certain games. It's kind of the where he is.
Especially when Almada has the kind of game that he has tonight, and then Fortune, like we said, wasn't perfect, but I think he did a lot of things. But it was the crux of it was we at some points didn't connect the lines and looked a little lost. And I think that's bound to happen, though, because it's also, like I've said before, and like this is a case of, yes, other teams can tactics too. And Wilfred Nancy, he figured out, okay, what's our greatest strength? Our strength is that our midfield is objectively better than Atlanta United's. And especially with Hosetu out as well, kind of that consistent pairing between Muyumba and Hosetu, yes, you lack probably maybe the continuity that we normally have. So I mean, they absolutely, after the first 7 minutes, they were playing a lot in our half. They knew how to do it. They're at home, know how to use their fans too. And it's just like.
So in that vein, Connor, what do you think was, if there is like one or the most principal reason why we lost this game? Was it, kind of like tactics like AJ's alluding to? Was it some players like Thiago just not showing up for a big game? Was it maybe Tristan and some of the other guys who just put in one hell of a shift last week just couldn't do it again this week? What do you think is more like the number one, or if this is like a confluence or what have you?
Yeah, I think it would be, if I had to like overall, I don't feel like we came in today with like the worst. Like we played very similar to how we always play. But I feel like the one thing that was different today than pretty much even like Tuesday was the key passes or the key like mistakes that led to goals just didn't happen on Tuesday, whereas they happened today. So I'm not really going to fault Pineda too much on like tactically. I think Nazi he did kind of figure this out, and you could see them, they really press us high, I like how the commentator, he said on one of them, they found the right balance of like more defensive yet more attacking. They found like the right middle spot, which they didn't have on Tuesday. They found the right spot, and as soon as they got that one opportunity to press and really win the ball back, they did it once and as a team, which I don't really think we figured out today. So I will put that a little bit on Pineda. The press was a bit disorganized today. I don't know if that's 100% Pineda's fault, but I think as a coach, the press needs to be together, and that's kind of one of your things that you got to do.
Yeah.
But overall, like, just individual errors really cost us 2 goals today, really. I'd even argue possibly 3. The last goal was, it wasn't really, I wouldn't put it exactly onto one person. I feel like Goose could have done better on it, but I think you have attackers like Rossi and Cucho. It's
tough.
I think giving up 2 like pretty good goals to them. It's not really a terrible shift, especially away from home.
Yeah, I mean you're expecting 2 like great goals from someone like Rossi or Cucho. I mean I was definitely expecting them to score minimum 2 goals this game. I didn't expect a center back to blast one in, and I didn't expect Darlington Abbey, after missing like 3-4 shots against us on Tuesday, to start to do it again, and then all of a sudden his first one he takes, boom. Like I didn't see it.
Yeah. Center back always. I kind of, like you were talking about earlier with the center back, like their kind of thoughts are like, this is not our day. Like whenever that went in, I feel like you didn't exactly see the players. They didn't like show it that much, but you could tell they like were trying to start. They're trying more like almost crazier not even crazier passes. They were like
Desperate.
Yeah, they were like, we got to find this we got to find a goal like right now, otherwise this is gonna go out of nowhere. And
I agree. I completely agree. I think that they thought if we can stifle this momentum that they currently have and just snap it in half and then go directly through them with a goal and then have the momentum, I think that was their plan. I think that, and that's a good plan. That's kind of what you want to do. You want to, if you get scored on and you feel like you're falling off a bit, you flip that script completely around. That's one of those moments. That's a thing, like how, when Zonde missed his, kick last week, but everyone picked him up and the crowd was chanting everything. That's like a moment where the game could have gone in the other direction, but it didn't, and it kept going in the right direction. I feel like, we tried to do something similar like that again, just didn't happen.
And we also didn't have the fans behind us, obviously.
So you're saying the fans are that important?
100%.
There is a factor. There's an energy factor.
A 4-2 flip. That's how important it is.
Well, I think there's this. It's that game state definitely mattered when it was 2-0, and we were going for it. That's what led to the 3-0. Is that we just opened ourselves because we had to. We had to come out. Like it's not like we were gonna try to sit and weather the storm or whatever. It's a game 3. It's like we had to come out, and it just ultimately left so much space, and we get punished. We get punished very, very heavily, and but I think as well defensively, where we were not at it tonight was we didn't have our heads on straight. Like when you need to boot it out, boot it out. Don't try to play a cute pass. Don't try to continue to try to move it forwards between the lines. You have to just clear your lines, and we didn't do that. Guilty on the first goal. I mean, I think there was some other moments
to Darlington in the first goal.
Yeah, exactly. And there were other moments where, we play a short pass when just kick it out of bounds. Like, just kick it out and, relieve some pressure. Or it's also people not talking to each other. On that first goal, Saba goes for a ball that is kicked by a Columbus player when he should just let it go. we were under pressure. We were under the cosh. Like, I don't understand. Like, if we talk about the intangibles about Brad Kuzan, which we were talking about while we were watching it all together, it's like somebody needs to say something. And if it's not the captain or the goalkeeper that's yelling at you to just let it go.
Listen, Sabo barely knows English. I mean, and if you have like half of our team yelling at him in Spanish, I don't. That's tough.
Nah. That's letting him off the hook. He watches NBA. He watches like all the other stuff. Like, yeah,
I'm just kidding, by the way, that he actually speaks passable English, probably better than I do. So.
So it's like that part's brutal. But Connor, hey, in terms of I guess your biggest takeaway this match.
My biggest takeaway. Let's see. There's a lot of takeaways from this game.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot of them, and there's a lot more questions than answers out of this
game. You have one that is
like.
Significantly larger than the others.
I think it's overall for me is if there is a good candidate as a manager position, we need to take that opportunity. Okay. I feel like that's the one thing that, because I feel like there's so many positions that we need to fill, and I like all of those could be great, but I feel like if there is a manager that comes open that is willing to come, that we think is a good candidate, we just need to pull the trigger this year.
So you're saying Pineda out if the right guy is available?
Yeah.
So who is the right guy to you? Like, what kind of, like, what's the philosophy behind the coach?
I think the overall, one of the things that I do like about Pineda that I feel like we need in the other manager is they need to understand that the winning is not going to be just next year or this year. It's gonna be more than that, because it's gonna take more than that to transition the squad. They need to play similar. Honestly, the way that Pineda plays whenever it works is kind of how we want to play. So I think that's what it needs. I think we just need a guy that can tactically change us if we need it. And I don't think Pineda gives us that option right now. I don't think he has the players to do it yet, which I think is one issue. But I haven't seen it as a coach. He's been able to implement it yet.
Okay, so more versatile.
And to speak on that, yeah, I think to speak on maybe what you're saying as well, is that Gonzalo Pineda is not a defensive-minded coach. And I don't think we've seen any aspect of that shows any evidence of him being able to keep teams out. And, while it's not maybe the absolute type of football that we want to play, it is something that, like, it's the old adage that absolutely rings true. Like, attack can win you games, but defense wins you championships. And yeah, I mean, like, we look hella sexy on Tuesday, but we can't keep the ball out of the back of the net tonight. And
where's
we
that
scored 2 goals, but we scored 2 goals, but we let in 4. It's just like it's just not good enough. It can be exciting for a neutral, but who cares about exciting for a neutral when you're the team that gets 4 dropped on them?
Yeah, screw the neutrals. That's what I say.
And to be fair, I mean, Wilfred Nancy, I mean, yes, you could say that about him as well. He hasn't really won anything, in a sense, but we can really see, I think, some ability in a coach like Wilfred Nancy. Because yes, he got 4 dropped on him, but I think you see some different levels. And
how do you respond to that?
Exactly.
It's the key.
I think you can see a more coordinated press from Columbus than ours.
I mean, it's not just the press. Their defensive line was extremely disciplined. Everything about them was disciplined this game. Like the first game, they were very disciplined. Like, I don't know. Columbus does not have a good record away. They fall apart away, apparently, and they did when they played us. But when they're at home, they're perfect, basically. They only weren't perfect once this season. So it's pretty wild. Like, I don't. Again, it comes back to the theory. Like, it's like away is impossible apparently in MLS. If you're a team who can win a good amount of, a big chunk of change in terms of winning away in MLS, that's championship material. And I just like it's all you have. That's what you have to kind of just fall on at this point as your conclusion, and just go, okay.
The team that basically subverted that played in pretty much their own state. Like Sporting Kansas City, they beat St. Louis, and it's like, yeah, they're neighbors. Like,
yeah,
like, it's just like, that's what it takes, I guess. Because one, they know it's pretty much that's home cooking, but it's also, in terms of climate, in terms of any of that,
right?
Conditions, barely the
travel.
Same. No travel, exactly. It's just like there's an interesting theory about that, and
it's too much. Yeah. It's too like that really like upsets me that like the home and away distinction has that much of an effect on games. It's like, man, because I don't want to just be like, well, we're away, probably gonna lose, like every time.
I shudder because if that's the case, Columbus Crew is playing Orlando City. City,
I know.
Second. Also, so it almost is having to root for FC Cincy to stay in there.
They will. I have all the trust in the world that they'll beat Philly.
We'll see. But Connor, final thoughts on this match?
Final thoughts. Well, frustrating one to end off the season. I enjoyed everything, but what was it, 37 minutes or something? I enjoyed after that third goal, I enjoyed it very much. Yeah. Even enjoyed that third goal. It was a nice goal. Whatever.
Tip your hat.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, man, I'm excited to see what we do this offseason. I think there's going to be a lot of transition. And I think that we could come back even better. Or we could come back even worse.
I hope so.
It all depends.
If we have a transfer window like our last transfer window, there's some really good promise.
Yeah,
we solved a lot of our problems.
There's no excuse not to. No. There's absolutely no excuse not to have an amazing transfer window, at least on par with last time, and to become a championship contending team. There's no reason why that shouldn't be the case.
Well, I mean, yeah, the books are looking good, that's for sure. But I think to put that lofty of an expectation on a transfer window,
I feel like we're halfway there. So it's just one more half. It's not like you need to do a full rebuild. So there's that at least.
Well, we'll get to it on a 5-star weekly episode. But yeah, there's probably about maybe 12 to 14 players that are maybe on the exit. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't think it would be that many.
Pretty much over half. That's like pretty much over half the squad.
I did not think it was going to be that much. I'd be surprised if it's
some of them
much.
are depth pieces, but yeah, some of them are like maybe part of the core.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah. I have one question for y'all that I just like. Across the last two games, from what you've seen from Saba, what is your, or not Saba, sorry, Jande. What is your opinion on like if we should exercise our buy option or not, or purchase him, bring him in? What would you?
I think it's this. But go ahead. Yeah. Finish with that.
Mainly just the two, because I think what we've seen before it wasn't really. I feel like you saw him come in like the hit the grounds running. I want to like the past two games. I feel like have kind of not really shifted my opinion, but I feel like the circumstances has to be right for me to want to do it, to finalize a deal.
Right, because there's a possibility that he might be a DP player, and because we pretty much only got him on loan for like maybe a third of a season, and so you have a potentially DP type of contract. I don't know. I mean, it's like,
It's
is his
dependent.
output? Yeah, is it his output going to be commensurate with a DP level contract? And like, there's a possibility. I think though we might be able to find a better player, but I think what he gave us was a lot of excitement. Was a player that found, I think, pretty decent consistency and some good end product, and it was an answer for us this season. Is he an answer for us going forward for multiple seasons? It's possible,
Yeah.
but
He's a TAM
I
player
think,
to me. He's a TAM player.
yeah,
He's not. If he's
exactly.
DP, it's just not going to work.
Right. I think there's a world where we might be able to find a better player if, yeah, it's a DP level. So,
This was just like a crazy thought I had. He is what we thought Jurgen Damm was going to be.
The
Not as much
profile
as
of
Dutch.
players is very different.
different types of players for sure. Yeah.
The
And
profile is very
different
different.
swing.
But maybe in terms of like goal output is what you're thinking. Maybe
Yeah, I'm
that
thinking
could
like
be.
my excitement from a player, from like not even excitement, but like if I'm thinking of a player, I'm like what I wanted him to be. That's what I wanted him to be.
Yeah, I could see that. Like his dynamism and his personality, I feel like,
Give me
shines through.
something.
Yeah, and it's like, he can be hype. I wish Jurgen Damm would grab a Spider-Man mask, but he's not that kind of guy. He'll do it on TikTok, but he won't do it on the field. So yeah, I prefer more on the field stuff.
Chelsea Cucho and the Spider-Man mask
Yeah,
after the
and the
game.
Black Spider-Man mask. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a pretty big FU to us, I think.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, he walked the walk and talked the talk. So it's like, okay, yep, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Because they also celebrated that way too with the Spider-Man
Yeah.
shooting webs at each other. So yeah, they took it personally, and I think that was smart of them. That was their Michael Jordan motivation.
Yeah.
In that, whatever way you need to find that somebody slighted you, okay, use that, destroy that team that did that to you, and they kind of did.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's like, yep. That's why. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, take nothing away from us. We're gonna celebrate our goals. Like, we're at home. Yeah, hell yeah, we're gonna do that. But yeah, that's like, I guess, one of the consequences if the other team can use that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have swag, you got to back it up. We have swag, but unfortunately, the other team just
Yeah, not
threw
every
it in our
match.
face when we weren't able to answer the call. So.
Well, Connor, great to speak with you for the first time.
Yes.
Definitely good stuff, and yeah, look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yes. Let's see if there we go. See you guys.
See ya.
See you, man.
All right. I'm going to read the chat for a second. Before I do that, I just need to change this to our next guest.
Which
All right.
Jennifer from 5 Takes will be
Correct.
joining us.
Correct. So she'll be doing that. And in the meantime, let's see what we got going on here. Oh, man, there's a lot of comments. Okay. Okay. Of course, I
Turn
should
real
expect
southern.
it.
Real southern for a second.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, right here, you see?
Yeah,
See,
absolutely.
see?
So Arthur Blank, Moody says Arthur Blank drinking a fifth of bourbon tonight. Falcons today, and now this. Jodifer says, I was hoping we would win today since the Falcons disappointed yet again. Strong says, regret to inform you that it is going to be Pineda for the next season. Jodal says Arthur Blank is about to make Atlanta flip out if Pineda and Arthur Smith aren't fired. And Tara Moody says ATL teams today went back to the 1990s time machine. Jodifer says, think about what is going through that 81-year-old man's head with these horrible coaches. Well, it's not exactly him. It's other, front office types people, or the blank, like, super company above that is making those types of decisions. Let's see, what else do we have? Jodal says it was a bad game to play Fortune. Rossetto should have been starting like last game, and you guys know where Sosa is. He disappeared. So, just to answer that real quick, nip that in the bud. So Rossetto was most likely unable to play for at least like 60 minutes because of an injury sustained last game. So that's why Fortune had his spot. It wasn't necessarily because he was the first choice option, just that's what it was. Sosa also just completely fell out of favor with Pineda. He just said in terms of training and form and game form, Rossetto has just, and anyone else, this goes for everyone, those players that are on the field had earned those spots versus the other players. Not saying those other players like Sosa weren't doing well. It's just those other players had more consistency. And Gavin says, appreciate what you guys have provided all season long. It was good to get involved with a lot, and sorry I couldn't be on with you guys tonight. But cheers to a huge Atlanta United Fan TV season. Ready for more. Appreciate you, Gavin. Thanks for stopping by and giving us that compliment.
Absolutely. Much love.
Yeah. And Donta Spite says, we should be happy that we made the playoffs way better than our trash Atlanta Falcons. You guys might know this guy, 5 Ticks and the 5 Stripes, says, Orlando, great on the road, not great at home. Strong says, talking to Glenn, Orlando have no talent in order to dominate a game at home, but their talentless team can counter when they have space and are solid at the back in an away game. It's probably why they have those types of results. So, with that, we are joined by our good friend, Jen. Jen, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello. Hi. Not as hungover as I thought I would be, but, I also had to drive home from Charleston, so match festivities were a little less glitterly than optimal, and so maybe it's really my fault that this happened.
I feel like there's a lot of people to blame. It's not just you.
Yeah, right. It's I applaud you looking within yourself and internalizing it first, but I don't think it had anything to do with you. But
so, Jen,
yeah, it was a heartbreaker. I not a heartbreaker. I think it was an expected heartbreaker. Like, how do you plan for getting your heart broken?
Right.
I just kind of feel like that's what this match was. Like, we had all this hope and this optimism and this amazing Tuesday night, which was so incredibly fun and incredibly great to be at, to feel that vibe and that energy in a space. And then, we went to Columbus and the expected things happened.
Yeah. It was pretty much, we prolonged our pain a little bit probably, because Tuesday probably some of us were expecting that. What happened tonight to happen on Tuesday. But we subverted our own expectations, but then, at 2 NACB.
Yeah.
That was really what did it. It felt personal. I was at Coda. I made it to Coda for most of the first half, and it was a dagger in the heart to every Atlanta fan who's ever lived to go down like that to that guy.
Of course, this is how it would happen.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there were some silent middle fingers to Carlos Bocanegra from that strike tonight.
Oh, Columbus thought he was good enough to give him a DP contract? Maybe we should have. Ooh, maybe we're, eating a bit of crow now.
That's the, it's literally, everybody talks about the one that got away in their love life. Darlington Nagbe is forever going to be the one that got away from Atlanta.
And United States men's national team. Whatever they did to make you upset, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I know, right?
I could not agree more about that either. Like, why he is not, whatever happened, I don't understand it, because I think, if he's on that side, 2018 World Cup, not a thing. We don't go to Trinidad and Tobago and lay that egg if he's in that squad.
I believe so, yeah.
Very well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, other than that, I don't think it was a bad season, and it kind of ended, I think, the way that maybe we all kind of thought it would end, because, I think I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, everything felt like 2017 at the beginning of the season. We got there, we were in the building back in late February, early March, and you felt all this new energy and this renewed sense of purpose, and things kind of building to something that didn't feel like this spinning the same story over and over again. And, we had a lot of ups and downs this season. We had some really, really high highs, and we had some despicable lows. And where we wound up is exactly where we wound up in 2017, losing to Columbus in the playoffs. So if I got to take something away from that, it's a lot of hope for 2024, because we all know what happened in 2018.
Yeah, so hopefully, the causation can become correlation, and yes, yeah, I would love that. I think we would all love that, obviously. But well, I mean, in terms of this match and like what you saw, like what do you think ultimately went wrong? Whether it was how we set up mentally, any sort of certain plays. Like what did you see that ultimately did us in?
I think there's two things. I think first and foremost, and I am not going to be the person that's crying for Pineda out at this point. I think Pineda got outcoached the whole series, and you have to look at the series from a whole, because he made very, very poor decisions tactically for the first match. And I think if we had gone up there in game one and we had played our offensive style instead of trying to play a system that we weren't built to successfully put out there in terms of lining up five at the back, like that's just not how we play. We don't bunker and counter. That is not our MO. But I don't know if that, make that game more competitive than it was, or
why wouldn't it look like the game tonight?
It could have, but I think we would have felt better mentally about, I think the team would have been in a better mental state. I think they would have, and I think it might have made Wilfred Nancy rethink his tactics, because I think the biggest thing that Wilfred Nancy did was, put Julian Gressel on the bench. And I think anybody that wants to argue that Gressel is a better player than Lennon, all you got to do is look at the starting 11 tonight for the do or die, the first real do or die match that Columbus had on their docket. And who was riding Pine? It sure as heck wasn't Brooks Lennon.
And he had 2 assists. I mean, yeah. But also, though, he was a little tore up for some of the goals, too. So, yeah, it's the double edge of that.
It is a double-edged sword, but I wouldn't necessarily put a lot. I think the miss by Shonday on letting that third goal in, where he I think it was where Rossi, like, that was probably the most blatant defensive error we had. The first 2 goals, people made the argument that it's on Goose. I don't know that it's on Goose. It's a really good shot. It's against the run of play, and we all know that Nagby is capable of pulling a couple of those out of his butt, once or twice a season. Picked a hell of a moment to do it, but he's capable of it. And when you get a strike like that from a center back, like nobody's touching that. So I don't really think you start talking about team defensive breakdowns until you get to the third goal. Right?
Agree. Yeah.
So there's that, and I think so you look at we didn't have any kind of tactical counter available to go back based on whatever you thought Wilfred Nancy might have put out, and frankly we had pretty much eaten Gressel alive like the whole series. We were getting balls past him all the time. He just does not get back on defense, and it was really evident last Tuesday, and even pretty evident when we finally started getting some offensive possession up in Columbus in the first match. It was coming from the left side where Gressel defends. He was kind of the weak spot defensively for them, and this is not to sell Columbus's midfield short, because I still think we all think that Darlington is one of the best ones out there, and I think Aiden Morris was up for one of the MLS awards this year, and
they're one of the best midfields in the league. I think it's I want to use the word elite. I'm not sure it is, but it's close to it.
So, I think that would be, my take one as to what happened is, we got outcoached this series. And, I will be very interested to see next season with what Pineda comes up with to look at countering that with the personnel that you want to add to this team to get them over this inconsistent hump and continual, just mental checkout for 5 minutes. Because
are you as just flabbergasted by how hot and cold this team is like I am? Like, it's just I can't explain it. It doesn't make it. It's one of the most frustrating. It is the most frustrating thing to me this season.
it's just like you never know what you're going to get. It is worse than Forrest Gump's box of chocolates because, at least all those chocolates are going to taste good, right? This is like getting a box of chocolate mixed up with those horrible jelly beans that taste like socks.
Right. Or
Or
worse,
the
you
ones
could
that
have
taste like,
licorice and hidden inside some of those chocolates, which
yeah,
my
it's
wife
just
would
like,
love, but I'm not about that life.
but yeah, I just like, and it's inexplicable because you can look and see the talent that this team has, right? Like, if somebody has a down night or two players have a down night, it shouldn't pull the whole team down to a level of the whole team plays like crap.
Right.
That's like, so if Thiago had a down night tonight, and I think, you were on such an emotional, this is my other reason we went out there, but I think we were on such an emotional high from Tuesday. Like, you were never going to rebuild and reconstruct that same energy 5 days later. Like, it was going to come down a notch. There was, you get up for that kind of situation. It's really, really hard to replicate it on a continual basis. Right. And that's where, from a practice physicality standpoint, as somebody who used to, compete athletically, believe it or not, muscle memory should kick in. Right.
Right.
Okay, I can't replicate the emotion of this thing, but I know what this is supposed to feel like. Let me go into mental shutdown and let my body take over and do its job. Right. That's what muscle memory is. And we just were in that place where we didn't have that extra gear. And that's where, like, being at home, you talked about being at home, being away. That's where being at home really does help you, because when you can't find that energy to get over the hump and you're kind of on autopilot, building off, a big old crowd that's getting loud and getting rowdy, and it pushes you in ways that, like, it's that intangible thing that is just hard to explain. It does play a factor, and I think that might ultimately be just the way soccer is in this country, along with a lot of travel hassle. I think that really plays a factor too.
I mean, it has to be, right? I mean, that's that and, like, obviously travel and some of those other intangibles, but I mean, that explains a 4-2 flip, a 4-2 one way, 4-2 the other way in less than a week. Like, it's like, if one team is just clearly better than the other, like, then how do you explain one team just blowing the other one out and then the other one blowing the other one out the next week? It's just like, it's so hard. It's so difficult to just wrap my head around that and be like, okay, here's why. It's
I mean, but I think that if you could figure that out, you would win us MLS Cup, because if we could have figured that out this season as a club, we would be winning MLS Cup this year, because talent-wise, when we are firing on all cylinders, there's nobody in the league.
I have my theory as to why, but,
No. Well, then expound on said theories.
Yeah, so I've talked about it in this stream before, and in, like, 5 Strike Weeklies, is that, like, I think that in terms of MLS, obviously you have your significant players, your DP players, your experienced veteran players. These types of players act as, in my mind, like pylons. Like, if you think about, like, how electricity flows through a circuit, you have, like, certain players that will, increase the flow of circuitry or electricity through the circuit. And if you have players or areas of the field that aren't as strong, like not very experienced players, younger players, players who are overly emotional, who allow games to kind of get in their hair, players and things to get in their head, circumstances, and then they all of a sudden, they're very easy to go down. They, head down, emotional, upset. They start making simple, easy, dumb mistakes, even though they're an amazing player. They're playing way below their level. Like, I think that my idea would be like, so along the spine of the team, you fill that with players who are these types of pylon players, who are experienced, older, who can, if a player near them, like on the sides or in their periphery, can then kind of notice they're, heading down, starting to get emotional, starting to be like in their own head or what have you, they can bring them up, grab them on the shoulder, go like, okay, it's okay, let's keep going, come on, let's go, I've been here before, we can do this. We don't have to just take this, we can do something about it. I think that Atlanta hasn't had a structure in which, like, if you think of like an aura of a player that can hit all of the important aspects of our formation in order to stop a cataclysmic shutdown of the team in these scenarios where things aren't going our way, and all of a sudden everyone's just like, well, screw it. All right, I'm checked out. Next game, who cares? And I think that, if we have those pylon players in these types of like veteran, along the spine positions, perhaps it'll stop that. I think you can see some MLS teams who have that kind of along the spine, and we talk about having a DP player at perhaps a 6 or an 8 position. That's one of the pylon positions I'm talking about, like a Darlington Abbey. Like, all of a sudden you start to see a defense not collapsing, a defense disciplined even when things are getting bad, or a midfield when things are getting bad, people are staying consistent. They're hitting their positions. They're winning their second balls even though they lost the last one. It doesn't collapse upon the. It just keeps going. It doesn't snowball. It stops because the veteran stops it, or the pylon player stops it. So that's my theory.
So in that same vein, do you think we really missed Alonso tonight? Like, knowing that.
So in my mind, that's a pylon player who should, in my mind, because he fits all of those things except for the fact that he can't play because he's always injured. So there's that.
Right.
And there's an ability that is very important, is to be able to be available, and
exactly.
he's not.
I think more in the sense of, and I don't think Fortune had a bad game. I think Jay had actually a pretty good game, all things considered. But that veteran wily presence of somebody who's been there, done that, who could allow Muyumba more freedom because he can take on the responsibility, and maybe the team didn't trust Jay as much as like they would a veteran who's been there before, or Kosetu, who's been playing in that spot for basically since July.
Yeah.
I think there's also this. I mean, it's like Fortune. I mean, he showed like even more things tonight that I'd be okay with him being, a starter next season for most of the matches. And it's
really?
this. It's like there was a moment.
Really, you would do
I would
that?
be okay. I would be
really?
okay.
You listen.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong about that, because you don't have enough sample size to make that judgment for half of a season. If you
Probably
had,
not, but
yeah, if you had more, like you saw him like be a starter for half of this season, and then you went like next season, yeah, I would like to prep. I'd be like, okay, sure, maybe you have some data for that, but it could be that like because I honestly think this game, like and there's plenty of games where players have good games and they perform above their level or what have you for whatever reason, who knows. And Jay did great this game. It's fine. It's just that.
It's not just off of this game, but
right. But it's also like
obviously
a handful of games.
Right, and he's played more than a handful of games. He's come on in some of our like most important times, and he has started as well. But his ability, not only off the ball but on the ball as well, and so he's gotten in the box in those moments where, okay, yeah, like, whoa, like, what is he doing there? Like far better than I think a lot of our midfielders have. And
compared to our depth pieces, yeah.
I think you have to look at
Well,
his performance in this match versus his performance in the first match of the series, when he was put in the role that he is, better suited to playing, which is, this double pivot hybrid 8-10-6 thing we have going on in the midfield, given the existing system. Obviously, if he's not going to be expected to be the piece that the ball goes through, which is what they were asking him to do in the first match because we didn't have Thiago, he was ready to do that. I think he's too young and not developed enough to be that nimble of a midfield piece to be able to play in 2 or 3 different specific midfield scenarios. Yeah. I'm not saying he can't get there, but I don't think he's there now. Obviously he's not going anywhere next year.
Yeah.
I
he's
do
a great
think that
piece. Honestly, it's like I said earlier, I would just love to see 6-8 double pivot with Tristan with a DP. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
I don't know, because
if we can
Go ahead.
find it.
Right.
I fully agree if we can find it, but I think there's also this. It's like he has a bit of that kind of like veteran know-how, even though he's obviously just a young kid. Like that tactical foul tonight showed that he is aware of the danger, which a lot of the players on the pitch didn't have. That's why we got scored 4 on. Like,
Yeah.
you take that tactical foul, you kick the ball out when you absolutely need to. And when you're under the cosh, you do that. And yeah, he took the yellow for the team. It could have been 5 if he hadn't done that.
Because like
that
you
man
got to
was going
learn
to go on
from
the
Wiley, because Wiley is the prototypical example of what to do. Like as a young up and coming player in this, and just to play beyond your years. Like Wiley has been the guy who's been the young guy who can just play like someone who's been playing for 10 or so years at the MLS, first tier level, and just will push Sergio Busquets onto the ground when it needs to happen. Whereas, like other players like Sosa will just like be like, I don't want to touch Messi because I have a poster of him in my bedroom. So like,
you basically gave him the red carpet.
Exactly. So, but like a Johnny, I think like is like he's following in a similar mold as Wiley, and I really like that, and I want that to happen because that's you need teeth in a team, and Wiley, damn, that kid's got teeth, and it's great to see it when he starts bossing players around, especially players. He's just like, I can respect you, but like you're playing against me, I'm gonna knock you on your butt.
So yeah, like while I fully agree that yes, our next 8 should probably be a DP.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, I think Fortune, for anybody that ragged on him, which I see some in the comments or something, it just
wow. Yeah, that's
I don't get it.
If you're ragging on Jay, I mean, come on. The guy has never really given you that much to. First of all, you can't have a complete opinion about him to have like a full prognosis of his next season and what his picture is with the team. That's just not fair. And then 2, even the things that you've seen so far, I don't really think you can be that harsh on him.
And I think just to add to that, we're in a cap league, right? We are not going to ever, at least for the next 5 or 6 years, be in a place where we are Man United and Man City and, a top 6 EPL team or a top 5 La Liga team where we can roll 2 full quality caliber starting 11s, right? You have to have homegrown talent. You have to have depth pieces that can contribute that are also affordable. So yeah, unfortunately in MLS, that means your quality is going to suffer, from top to bottom, because you're going to have some players that have to have room to grow because they've got to get experience somehow.
Right. Of course.
You can't just go from 2s or MLS Next Pro and all of a sudden be this, world beater DP level 8. They don't grow on trees.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't just go out and buy them. Even though, if we could, Arthur would.
Unless you're Alphonso Davies and, yeah.
Or
boy, did they get lucky over there with him.
Right, for sure. Or unless you're Inter Miami. So.
Yeah, but see, I fail to see next season how Inter Miami is going to hold up over the course of matches that they're going to have.
Yeah.
You can bring in Messi, all of Messi's, 35 and over buddies, and you're going to ask them next year to play 50 matches because it's not just 34 league matches. It's Leagues Cup. It's Open Cup. It's Copa America next year. And they made Champions League. That's 45, 50 matches.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of U22 players that they brought in. And so there's like they have a good number of talent that's actually younger or definitely like depth that can handle it, help them handle it. So
but my concern for if you're a Miami fan, you're a Messi fan, you're watching for their next season. Listen, yeah, you're talking about getting Suarez and stuff like that. You're gonna have these guys. Thing is, the likelihood that you have that entire complement on the field at the same time for large stretches of games is so abysmally small. Someone's gonna pick up a knock because they're older, and you're just not gonna get them all on the field for large stretches of games. You're just not. I guarantee you, like the amount of games that if you have Suarez, Alba, Busquets, and Messi all on the same team, all on the same thing. If Suarez shows up. If you have all of those all on the same pitch, I'm gonna say like maybe maximum a third of your games all at the same time.
I mean, yeah, it's bold, but I think it's also this. It's like they didn't need Suarez, but now they're getting him. Like they won Leagues Cup without him. They will still have Campagna.
But I was just gonna say, are you gonna sit Campagna for Suarez? Like I wouldn't.
It depends. I mean, Campagna is a wonderful depth piece in terms of Suarez. He's
like 22, 23. Like he's gonna start a lot of their other matches.
Right.
And it would just be where there's gonna be some rotation, and then you have Taylor, you have some of the other U22 players that are.
Is Gregory gonna show up again? Probably not, but
Yeah, but it's just it doesn't really. I think what matters is this: is Messi going to be on the pitch? It's just like if he's going to be on the pitch, well, that's going to be.
Unless you're against New York City FC, and then you're just going to not show up whatsoever. So
here's to the Washington Generals of MLS and taking down the Harlem Globetrotters. That was pretty freaking awesome, actually.
Dude. Well, anyway, this is an Inter Miami TV.
No,
like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail things.
No, I did. But back to this match, and basically, I mean, ultimately, we can't let in 4 every single match on the road. Like that's the crux of it, and that's what did it our season. But what do you feel like in terms of this match here? What can we pull into the next season as positives? Because there's also this, and this is now a long-winded answer or question, but because you were talking about Gonzalo Pineda and how, it's maybe not Gonzalo Pineda out yet, but with some of the problems that you, I think, rightfully noted, that he got outcoached. And, well, Arthur Blank has the money to employ the best people. And if we don't have the best person, why would we keep him?
So I think it's a two-pronged problem. I think number one, I can't think of anybody that's currently available right now that would be
Mr. River Plate.
He doesn't want to coach it. Yeah.
I'm just okay. He's available.
I can't think of one person who's available that might actually come to MLS. Let me rephrase that. That might actually come to MLS. Although, again, league's opening up some different doors, and who knows? But I can't really think of anybody that would be as good of a fit right now for the kind of soccer that I think very clearly Garth Lagerwey is demonstrating that he wants us to play. Right? He wants the fun, engaging, attack-focused soccer. And that's not saying we don't need to tighten up the defense. And maybe there needs to be some tweaks at the assistant level. And, I can't think that Gonzo is not on a super short leash next season. But as of right now, I don't know that there's any realistic options that are a better fit. And part two, the second part of the prong, is that I don't know that we had given him yet all of the right player personnel to execute things the way that he would have wanted to. We still desperately need some enforcers in the back. We don't have anybody who's willing to throw the gloves in, to use a different frame of reference. But that's what we lost when we lost Franco. When we lost Ibarra. We don't have an enforcer right now. We haven't really had one. Frankie was growing into that role, and then we hadn't had one since Larry, right? You want to talk about the big thing of us giving up all these, goals in, spurts or weird spurt stops to the game, end of matches, things like that. Yeah, that's where you were talking about your, having somebody on the spine too, but you need somebody in there to throw some hip checks and get people back on track. We haven't had that for several years. So I think if you gave Gonzo a couple of those things in his toolbox to play with, you might be looking at some different options that he could throw tactically. I don't think his tactics are horrible most of the time. And again, this is more props to Wilfred Nancy because he's a hell of a coach and has never gotten, I think, the credit he's been due for the quality of work that he's put out there.
I agree with that.
So there's also this though, and I think you bring up a lot of really interesting points. Wilfred Nancy, he was poached by Columbus Crew because he had a really good season with CF Montreal. Why didn't we do that? Yeah. Like we had any opportunity to do that. And there's also this. We're in the middle of October or November. Oh, I just lost a month. But we're in November, and yeah, there's not a lot of available coaches, obviously, because a lot of the maybe good ones are still coaching in MLS right now. If they are, they're worth their salt. They're in the playoffs. And, as well, you have, other leagues. They're ongoing currently. And so, yeah, there's, of course, not going to be a ton of candidates right now. But there are other moments that we could have. And I think we let some good opportunities possibly slip us by because we're sticking with somebody that is good enough, but isn't great to get us to where we want to be.
I think you have to think about the timing as far as when Pineda can't, with what went on last year, because, this is Nancy's first season with the Crew, right? Like they poached him from Montreal last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened this time last year? Okay, well, we didn't have a team president really, and Garth didn't know what the hell we had, and we had no analytics, and you got Boca, signing some other players and, whatever. And we didn't really know what we were doing. So I think the onus was get us in a cap functional space first and foremost, and then see what we can start doing from there. And given Garth's history with Pineda, I think he was willing to give, and I think he's still willing to give Pineda the benefit of the doubt before he makes other moves. But in the same vein, you want to go out in the offseason and poach a coach, go look at our buddies down in the land of the Purple People Eaters, because that's a hell of a coach who I think has very quietly turned a team that literally was a walking disaster zone into probably the most, the second, one of the most underrated sides in the league.
Unfortunately,
nobody talks about them. Nobody looks at them. Pareja has done a hell of a job with them in the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
Just to finish, with no talent and no money. So imagine what he could do if he had access to talent and money.
Yeah, they have one of the least salary cap hitting teams in the league, and they are wildly overperforming with second seed in the East. And I'm sitting here, I'm guilty of it too. I'm like, Columbus is going to walk all over them. And that may not even be a foregone conclusion. Orlando, unfortunately, is good.
Yeah. And it's also that, their DPs don't cost very much. And so it's okay, you have that. But then that's the crux of this, I think, for me, is that Gonzalo Pineda, without the tools in his toolbox, has shown that he gets, if we're talking about walloped, he gets walloped on the consistency, often when he doesn't have one DP or two DPs, and even other members of the team that that are regular starters, but he doesn't seem to have any sort of actual system besides in terms of a competent thing without the star players. With the star players, we look like world beaters. We look like we can beat any team in the league on our day. But when it comes time to win, you don't have those players. We look like a team that looks lost. We don't have any sort of competent defensive system, and that's evident when we have our best team. So there's too many instances, I think, that he's shown that he's just maybe not at the level that is required at the moment. He might grow into that, but I think our ambitions are too high.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to give him the space. I think that the club is trying to give him the space to learn and grow into that. And it's part of the pain that Garth talked about when he came in here, that he said, look, it's going to be a couple of years of pain. You're just going to have to be patient and deal with it. And Atlanta ain't a patient town. We only like shiny new toys. We do not like, the slow drip of, acid on our skin.
Right. Well, I mean, like when your team's brand is like, we compete for all the trophies. We're a championship level team. We're going to be out there trying to beat everyone every time by like 4+ goals every game. And then all of a sudden you do this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you could see why someone would say like, we need to maybe move on to something else.
But I think from, a pure enjoyment standpoint, right? I look at the soccer I got to watch this year, right? And it was fun. Yeah. It was fun. Yeah, losing isn't fun. Losing at the death of a half and losing at the end of a match, that's not fun. But I was entertained by the brand of soccer we put out for the most time. Mid-May to like July, early July accepted. Right. The rest of the season was actually like pretty fun to watch. So
that's a big swap, though. That's 3 months of the season that felt really quite dire. Like that, I don't think that's something that we can just brush under the rug. It's legitimately, that is something we need to shake a stick at the team and the club and the front office. That yes, okay. Well, you guys fixed a lot of those issues in July, in that transfer window. Like, what's to say this doesn't happen again? Right? And
well, I think if we don't come out of the gate, I really think if we don't come out of the gate the first, 6, 7, maybe 10 matches of the season, looking like we looked on Tuesday night, or at least, 3/4 of the way to what we looked like on Tuesday night, I don't think Pineda is long for this world. I think next year it's pretty much
this world.
This world of soccer.
This world of Atlanta United. I don't think he makes it.
Dang, Jennifer, you're gonna hire some hitmen and
why not? I mean, my family's from Jersey. You never know.
Oh,
I'm from Jersey too. I can definitely say that that's something we do up there.
But yeah, no, I think the leash is very short. I think if we start slow, he doesn't make it past April.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
But I think Garth is going to give him every opportunity to succeed.
Because conceivably he's going to have the roster he's going to, quote unquote, need in order to be able to look like a world beater to start out with in the first quarter of the season. And if he just cannot produce at that point, because like Garth's like, here's what you need. You can't do it now, then all right, that really is what it is. You have half of what you need now, and hopefully, like you've got to the playoffs, so that's something. We were thinking that we might not make it to the playoffs, and now we are here. So that's something. That's an accomplishment. Unfortunately, like we said, we've always said, and this is the mantra of the team, it's not just the playoffs we're interested in. We're interested in competing for trophies, and we're just not doing.
And those goalposts changed. Yeah. Like we went to the season wanting to be having home field advantage in the playoffs.
We did, and I think we got every right to hold Garth accountable to that. I think we got every right to hold Pineda accountable to that. Like, what are you doing? I want to hear from you come media day next week. What are you doing? Because you didn't hit your goalpost, and why didn't that happen? And what are you doing to fix that? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll be curious. We're going to have a really interesting and I think very challenging off season.
Yeah,
because we have some very key pieces that we have, talking about the spine again, we got to replace half the spine.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And it's very
That's
hard to
smart players don't get, also maybe poached in that sense too, because Yorgos Yakimakis is getting some possible, eyeballs on him
That
from
would
Europe
be
again.
wild.
Yeah. So
I
you know,
that's the
he
one
doesn't
thing I hope we don't. I really we need in this club, we need a linchpin guy with some swagger, and Yorgos has that in spade. He's got that whole, Atlanta United swagger, just here I am, I'm Usher.
Yeah,
we
I
we
agree.
can't lose it because finding it was so freaking hard in the first place, and we kind of lucked into it with Joseph, and it wasn't luck. I don't think that we got Yorgos. We just I think again, it's just we went for 3 years looking for that.
I mean, we could be like Charlotte with like Swiderski being the personality of your team, and it's just like, come on, that's not. We don't want to do like that. Like
Nobody
that
likes
team has
Kilbasa
zero
that much.
personality. There, I mean, you need swagger as to be the linchpin of the Atlanta United, and Yorgos, like you said, has it in spades.
And ultimately, we'll see what they do with the rule changes, in the off season, because they're going to have to do something with increasing cap space. They've gotten way more revenue off the TV deal than they thought that they were going to get. And you have, at least half the teams in the league that want to actually spend money, and you can't keep telling them no for the sake of schmucks out in Colorado and Salt Lake City.
Right.
And you're going to have to find, and if you want the league to grow in stature overseas and actually keep these eyeballs that are here watching Messi, you're going to have to make it more competitive on a global scale, which means you're going to have to allow more flexibility in terms of roster rules and better roster construction, especially if, as we were talking about before, you're going to want to play all these extra side hustle tournaments. You just can't do it the way that it is.
And that's like the biggest, I think. I don't know. It's so appropriate to name it a side hustle tournament, because some of these really feel that way.
Yeah.
Like Leagues Cup, let's be honest. It was fun. Is it important? It's like, okay, yes, it got you Champions League.
But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's just like, but ultimately that's what it is. It's like Champions League still is more important. Like it's an entry.
It is, but I don't mind it. It's kind of like our own energy drink cup. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you hanging out with us and giving us your takes. Unfortunately, the last game of our season this year, but we'll have you back next year for sure. Absolutely. And please check her out on the Five Takes and the Five Stripes podcast. That we are collaborating with and we are now partners with. So please check them out. Glenn, Kat, Jen, and Jack. They're wonderful people, have some wonderful things to say. And if you like what you heard tonight, you can find more of that on their podcast. And it is also on our feed, I believe, on Spotify under Atlanta United Fan TV. So thanks again, Jen.
And wherever you get your pods. So, yes. But Jen,
Thanks
have a
for
good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so we have one last opinion we're going to get to. I know it's late, everybody, but you know him, you love him. It's Niall. He's going to come in and he's going to give us what he thought about this game. I'm going to read a couple more comments while we're waiting on that. And there's some interesting comments going on right now. We're talking about Miguel Berry for some reason. So let's see. What are the comments are saying about Miguel Berry? They're saying that justice for Juanjo Parata. Justice for Miguel Berry, Connor Watson says. Fun fact, Kier Hatch played against Miguel Berry in high school. And did he score any bangers? He scored twice. And the team that Kier was on lost 7-3. He was a freshman on varsity. He was a varsity striker, I believe. Connor also says, laugh my ass off. I think he only knows how to score bangers. It could be the case. I haven't reviewed his film from previous seasons because who's going to watch Miguel Berry? Kier also says he's a very borderline player, Good for USL, but not enough for MLS. That's clear. At least, you know, barring his time on Columbus where he had like a standout time, but as a depth piece. But
did not expect for us to be
right?
talking about
I
Miguel
know,
Berry
right?
tonight.
So let me get through a couple of these first before we get to Niles' takes. Connor says, I think we all know Gressel has a better all-around service than Lennon, but overall, Lennon is a better right back. Glenn says, Sock Candy FC, LOL. I think that might be a reference to Orlando. I'm not exactly sure. Connor says, I do miss a good old Gressel ball in behind the defense, which Martinez runs onto and just taps it in. Yeah, the cutback passes of deaths. I mean, we're seeing a couple more of those from like Saba and Lennon. They're starting to do more of those. I love them. I want to see more. Not enough yet. Strong's also saying, it is the coach, guys. He's the teacher. The way they players are playing are the product of his work. And if the players don't improve under him, it is on him. Chris James says, 2 defensive stupid mistakes killed the game for us. Connor follows up with saying, for me, Jay is the definition of a level-headed player who knows what needs to be done and when to do it. He's also getting a lot better at moving the ball around on the midfield. I'll agree with that. I think he's an overall very serviceable player in MLS as a depth piece. If you're gonna run like a DP at that spot, then he's absolutely great to come in and take over that spot. So I'll say that. And then Jada also just now said, we have so much talent, but seems we aren't executing whatsoever. I mean, we executed twice tonight, and then the night before 4 times. It's pretty. I mean, 6 goals in 2 games is pretty good. High output of a team. Thing is, we also have 0 defense. So there's that. Anyway, we're here with Niall.
Both sides of the ball.
Yes. So Niall, how you doing? Welcome. This is Atlanta United FC as usual, or Atlanta United Fan TV as usual after dark. So very late tonight. So.
And we can see a full face of Niall. What?
I know, yeah. Look at that. He's some nice art in the background too.
Oh yeah.
Left corner, yeah. Bottom right corner, yeah. Okay. But yeah, Niall, give us your thoughts.
Man, where to begin? I think frustrating loss. The beginning of the game was just very, very bad. The 2 goals at the beginning that we conceded from Columbus was just, those are things that, I think everybody was talking about, Atlanta United, if they want to get success out of this game, they cannot concede an early goal. But we did, and that was because of a bad pass from Miles. I don't really know why he couldn't have just cleared the ball. Second goal was just another
Is what it is.
mistake. Just couldn't seem to learn from the fact that we gave it away the first time. I will say though, I was pleased with the way that we were able to at least put up at least some of a fight, like towards the later end of the match. The 2 goals from us were decent, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough, especially against a team that
I think possession.
Yeah, we had possession. I think there were chances that we could have capitalized on a bit more. For example,
Oh yeah.
especially with there was one chance where I was betting on GG scoring in, but I think Schulte made a good save. So
Yeah.
the match could have gone differently, but then also the mistakes are what really killed the game. So I mean, it was frustrating, but I think, to lose against a team that I consider to be one of maybe the favorites for MLS Cup is not something that I'm too upset about.
That's fair, ultimately, because it is. We have our own little Discord MLS bracket that we've done, and
shouts out to Niall for running it for us. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, right now, hasn't broken probably many of the people's brackets yet, with unfortunately Columbus Crew going through.
Although
And,
there's a good amount who had Atlanta, because
yeah,
I mean we're in Atlanta United Discord,
yeah,
so there was a good amount of
exactly.
Atlanta going through.
Right, and I think rightfully so as well, in that sense. But it's, yeah, I mean, you have the heart and you have the mind,
Right.
and that's the difficult part. Is while you're trying to win a bracket, you also you don't want to root against your home team either. That's the difficulty. But yeah, no, Columbus Crew, tough customer. Obviously, that's what we've seen throughout this whole 3-game series, is just how difficult it is to play them in Ohio. But yeah, I mean, it's like
Fortress.
in terms of like,
Definition of.
yeah, it really is. I mean, now like going into this match, how high were your hopes? And be honest, like what was your score prediction?
My hopes were high. I don't know. Like like for some reason, just the way that the team played um, at home against Columbus was, for me, I think, something that I was pleasantly surprised with, because I thought it was going to be a lot harder of a match, and I was thinking that, like, the team had momentum heading into this next match. So I was predicting Atlanta United goes through. But I think the mistakes are what really kills the team, because before that mistake, Atlanta weren't playing terribly. They had chances to take the lead, but those mistakes are what really will just make it hard, because it's like it just kills your momentum. So to be fair, I didn't think that it was going to be as easy as maybe other people thought it would be for Columbus to advance. But like, at the end of the day, like you take what you get from this. I think there are lessons to be learned from playing teams like this. Especially the game at home, I thought was a really good showcase of what this team can do at their best. But like, yeah,
What
I
does
had
Gonzo learn from this?
What does Gonzo learn from this? I think he learns more, like, tactically about, like, what he can take from the two games, because obviously there's different approaches. He may be asking about what approaches he could have taken differently at Columbus. I think the players also take some lessons from this too, because for many of them it was their first playoff game, and I think this is just a pain that will, at the end of the day, also, like, sort of benefit them, because it's like it's a lesson that the entire club is learning as they look to get back on the right track.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, I like that. I mean, it's it's definitely something that I think there are some of the greatest lessons in life are the pain that you have to suffer through, and
Experience is the
really,
greatest teacher.
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's much better said than what I was trying to probably go for. But yeah, it's basically, it's like, man, like though, like I was saying with Jennifer, it's like, yes, there's still, I think, quite a bit to learn, and that's the main bit here, is, can his learning curve shorten fast enough for him to be able to get us to where we want to be? That's the biggest question. Like, because, yeah, we can back him another window, but then, okay, there is the volatility of the rotation of, or the revolving door, rather, of head coaches.
Right.
And that's tough on a team, because, we've seen with other teams that, if you don't have a good core ready, that head coach, if they want their own players, it can really just, it puts you in a cycle of you're just chasing your tail because you're
Right.
finding the right players for the system that they want to implement.
Right, and now you'd think, like, get the new coach in now, so you have a gigantic window coming up. You know, AJ was saying, well, you said like 14 or so players or something that could be out? Like
12 to 14 players that could be.
Yeah,
not,
like that.
Not a sure thing.
That's a kind of thing that you'd want to, if you're going to go with a new head coach, instead of, let's say, Pineda just falls out of graces within the first quarter of next season and he's out, like Jen was saying, all of a sudden you now have all of these new players, maybe 14 potentially, that are Pineda's guys. And now a new guy comes in and he's just like, who are all these people? And all of a sudden you're going to have to go through a turnstile of players again to come up with his guys. You're going to have a Heinz issue all over again. Like it's a tricky one to go into right now. So I think the money is just stay with Pineda for a good amount of time regardless of what happens, and just really, 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 really cross your fingers and hope that there's some bigger potential there.
Right. Because there is a bit of this where, okay, yeah, if you can hire enough support for him, and if he's willing and capable of taking the advice from some of his assistants and whatnot, which I think he's probably has the willingness and the hubris to do
because
so.
He was the assistant, so hopefully.
Yeah. So, yeah, right. And so, I think you bring in a more defensive-minded head coach. You bring in, maybe. I mean, I think we have the money. I think we have the money to bring in some of those kind of, I think what some teams maybe would deem like a luxury, but a throwing coach, a set piece coach, those type of things that would put us over the top. Like, the margins are small in MLS, and I think, yeah, if you can get those advantages from someone that's more or less paid, like maybe 100,000, 200,000, do it.
Yeah,
absolutely do it.
It's pennies to
like
what
that.
They pay the Falcons in terms of things like that. So
exactly, like, why haven't we done it? Like, that's another conversation. But
yeah,
now this match, and in terms of why you thought we went out ultimately.
Yeah, what went wrong? What were the biggest reasons?
I would say the mistakes were the biggest reasons.
But why? Why the mistakes? Why did they happen? Why didn't they happen in Atlanta when we beat them 4-2? Why is there such a massive switch?
I think part of the reason is because when you're looking to score the first goal, and I think maybe we were at times a bit like over aggressive with the way that we were playing. I think at times like players feel rushed with the, like, in their mind they think that they are making the right decision, but then like when they look at the decision back, it's like, no, I didn't make the right decision. So I think for Miles, for example, he thought maybe, oh, I could pass to one of my teammates that was open, but nobody was open. And so now he's looking back at that play and being like, man, I could have just cleared the ball or something like that. So it's basically like, I think basically when we were playing out of the back, we were not being cognizant enough of the pressure that was being put on us, because Columbus did a good job of applying pressure on us as we were playing out of the back in this match.
Yeah, I mean,
100%. That's what it was.
Just like, you're Nagby. Yeah, it's just like reminiscent of the time when he was on my team. He's my teammate. I'll pass it to him. It's fine. And then after the game, they shook hands and went, thanks for the assist, buddy. Like old times.
Yeah. No, but that's what it is. Like their team can tactics too. It's basically like they put us under such good pressure that, Miles Robinson, they gave him that false sense of just, serene that, oh yeah, I can just, not clear my lines and try to find a midfielder. No. That's exactly
Is it because
the main
Hosetu
point.
was going to be there, but he wasn't this game, and Ajani was off doing something else because he wasn't ready?
Who
No,
knows? It's definitely not, I think, any of that. I think it's just that, yeah, he's a player that usually pretty cool head, but I mean, sometimes some players just lose their heads.
Just happens to be the most of the team all at the same time.
I mean, I think once like a teammate makes a mistake like that, it's like hard to like just keep your head up at that point because it's like that was the one thing we were supposed to not be doing. So why are you making that mistake?
Especially with a solid rock player like Miles, yeah.
Yeah, like they don't expect that. Like I was shocked myself to be like, out of all the people that are doing that, making that mistake, it's Miles. Like that's probably the worst game I've seen him play in an Atlanta United shirt. And
I was being a little tongue-in-cheek earlier when I was talking about, like, passing from Miles to Nagby, but, like, I thought in my mind maybe, like, just Nagby read the play very well because he is a smart player. He just knew it was going to be there.
I think that, and also I think just there was just a lack of, like, a awareness from Miles, like, oh, hey, there's a bunch of pressure from Columbus here, maybe trying to make a pass forward is not the best option. And he usually when he does that, it works, but in this scenario, it didn't.
Yeah. For you, I don't even know where I'm going actually, but for you though, like this game, I mean, like ultimately, okay, we lost 2 games in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Was this actually the game that actually lost it for us?
No, I don't think so. I think it was the first game for me that really lost it for us because we were just incredibly flat in that first game at Columbus. If we had gone to Columbus and had a better performance, like honestly, like the result could have been different. It could have been a much better performance for us, and it could have been a different result. But to start off that way, the way that we did at Columbus, was just bad. But then also, like at the same time, it's like I'm not sure we would have had that performance at home if we didn't lose that match at Columbus in the way we did, because I think it kind of was a wake-up call to the team, because it's like, hey, like we're not playing at our best here. If we want to have a chance of advancing, we've got to play better. And I think Doug Robertson had this article about how the players had a team only meeting, and I think was examples of where like, hey, like what are we doing here? We need to. If we want to advance, we have to win this home match. So it's, for me, I feel like it's the very first game for me is where the one that we truly lost the series, because for me that was the one that ultimately set the tone for what was to come later on.
Yeah, that's very well said. I was going to interject at some point, but no, you said my points, so I love it. I love it. Like that's exactly what it is. I mean, like the players had to do a players only meeting because how bad that first match went. I mean, like
that was my theory. I posted in Discord with that exact article that he's talking about was this the X factor? Was this the thing that gave Atlanta United the turbo boost it needed to demolish Columbus at home? And then what happened to it tonight?
You get that false sense of bravado. You get that false sense of confidence that oh yeah, we got this. Especially when you have the first 4 chances that were pretty good chances, and then Columbus Crew punch in the mouth. It's like Mike Tyson says, you have every plan in the world until you get punched in the mouth. So we couldn't recover. We yep, we ate that first punch, and yep,
It's dude.
like that.
It's confusing, right? Because like when you have like quotes that make it into like a pithy little like, here's why this is why, you know, whatever. It just because I'm reminded of another quote by like Sun Tzu that was like, you know, victorious warriors win first and then they go to battle, right? So like in their minds they've convinced themselves they're absolutely going to win and then they go to, whereas like losers go and hope to win instead of actually thinking they're definitely going to win. So you know, it's like it's you could find like a quote that like fits whatever to make a point, and it's just like it's hard for me to be like, here's this, here's that. It's I still am like, nothing makes sense. It's just that nothing makes sense to me. Like I'm still just like I said I was in the beginning, I'm like stuck on this where I'm like, how can you have a 4-2 switch one game to another just because you're away? Like that should not be the case. It just shouldn't be the case.
Well, it's not just because we're away. There's a lot of other factors, and obviously we've talked about.
Of course, but it shouldn't be literally like reverse mirror image. Like it just shouldn't. It just doesn't make any sense. Like if one team is just clearly better than the other and it deserves to advance, they shouldn't get absolutely demolished away and then you know do it, you know, the number against the other team the next game. It's literally insane. It's to me.
If we play what if,
it's like it's like in the game Risk. Like 1 second, just bear with me in this analogy. Like when you play Risk, when you attack another country with your army, the defensive team, they win on ties when they roll their dice against your dice when you're rolling against them. So like if they tie something and like if you roll 6 and they roll 6, they'll beat your 6 because it's a defensive tie wins. So the defender always has the advantage. I feel like that's the case of away matches in MLS because it's just like you could just play really well and you're still going to get like beat by a random whatever team in the middle of nowhere, United States, even though you pay stupid amounts more money than them on a team that's supposed to be a championship worthy, and then you're just getting embarrassed now. Whereas like most of the other leagues in the world, you know, you get a team that's like super team versus, you know, 90% of the other team, and they're just like clearing them easily every time, almost like clockwork. This league is just all over the place. Could be fun, could be more interesting that way, and that, you know, it's more exciting. You never know what's going to happen, but like, damn, is it frustrating.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that is the thing. Yes, while these problems do seem they're painful, yes. They seem unique to us. They're not. Like basically, there are going to be 31 other teams that experience the same thing. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of problems.
When you have like the 5 bottom teams in the league in terms of spend being in like the top 50% of the league in terms of performance, that's why it's like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, you know, Atlanta luckily is in the top 50%, but like, damn, like Toronto, I would be in, if I was a Toronto fan, I would throw my computer like every day against the wall. Like, it blows my mind.
Man, you would be a very rich Toronto fan to be able to have a bunch of computers.
Much like their club, who has just insanity money that they're willing to spend, and then apparently light it on fire because their team is literally the worst in the league.
Yeah, luckily we're not that team.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yes, thank God.
It very well, yeah. Like, but
my condolences to Toronto.
It's been making this weird sound. Okay, but so anyway, now, final thoughts on this match.
Final thoughts: disappointing match. But I am weirdly optimistic for next season. I think this offseason is going to be really interesting. I think the players that we brought in turned out to be pretty good signings, and I'm liking the direction this team is in. Like Garth has said, like there's going to be periods where this team has to endure pain, and like today, for example. But I think I'm starting to see where this team can head, and I think we're not as far away as like people may think we are from being back to a team where we should be near at the top or competing for trophies.
Completely agree. We have a lot to be optimistic about, especially with Garth and everyone saying we're only like, halfway there, and we're already we're giving Columbus a 3-game series, which to me, one of the best teams in the league. So like that's there's a lot to be optimistic about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now, thank you so much for your thoughts. Thank you, as always, for everything that you do. And have a great rest of your night. Speak with you soon.
All right. Cheers, guys. Here's the next season, hopefully.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah,
Talk to you
dude.
later, buddy.
All right. See ya.
So yeah, guys, don't forget, we're a championship team. Remember, we're a championship team. 3 right there. We're going to get back to it. We just have to have the right things in place. And I think next season, we're going to be at least 75% in a conservative measure there. Maybe more. I'm hoping more. I would say like the balance of probability probably like maybe a little bit higher than 75, but like, like I said, conservative. We're going to be 75% there, and that at least in my mind puts us at 75% of better than, the top 25% of the league. So that's my expectations minimum next season. The top 25% of the league, hopefully better, but again, there's a lot of tricky variables that I have a hard time wrapping my head around in this league, so we'll see.
All right. Well, let's see what's going on in the chat before we bid adieu.
Yeah, so
It's late.
nothing much more since what I went over last time. Just Glenn saying thanks everyone for staying on so late and for the great discussions. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I hope we're giving you plenty of awesome fodder as well to delve into on your podcast because, I would love for someone to, dig into what I'm trying to say and be like, no, here's why you're wrong. Here's why you're completely ignorant about this. So I can get a better understanding of what the heck is going on. So, because I still feel like I said, I'm like out on a limb, just grasping at straws, trying to understand, how one game can go one way and another can go another way, and just such a drastic change with the exact same players essentially. So. It is what it is. Do you want to do the wheel one last time this season? I mean, we're not gonna. Yeah, we can. Like I don't know. Are we gonna air forfeits on 5 Stripe Weekly, or what do you want to do with that?
Yeah, probably not. We'll discuss, and you guys can let us know if you want to see that on 5 Stripe Weekly. In the meantime, but yeah, I think for now it's late.
It is late. Thanks for staying up with us, guys.
Exactly. We love you. We appreciate you. Make sure to hit that smash. Hit that smash. It's late. It's real late. I can't
Smash that hit.
Smash that hit. Smash that like button and do all that. But yeah, I think let's see. Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, this, this match, it's frustrating. It's, at least we got to talk to each other, to give ourselves the therapy. And I think that's the main bit, is that, there's a lot in this off season that's going to be very interesting. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be here for it. So keep it locked on here. So yeah, I think it's time to bid adieu. So yeah, remember to subscribe, share this video,
Smash that hit button.
smash that hit button. But yeah, anyway, for Michael, I've been AJ. We will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.